Okay, algebra class, this is lesson 42, solving percent problems. And I must admit, you guys must be excited to see this lesson because this is not complicated. Okay, you guys can do this. All right, no problem at all. A percent is a ratio that compares a number to 100. When I hear a percent, I know it's out of 100. For example, 50%. It's 50 out of 100 or 1/2. We all know 50% is a half, right? There are three components that form a percent statement. The whole is the total amount. The percent is the rate that quantifies an amount measured with respect to the whole. The percentage is a number that represents a percent of that whole. For example, 25% of something, in this case it is 20, is 5. Okay, so let's look at the examples here. First question we have, and I'm on, this is lesson 42, example 1. Look at the bottom here. It says what number, okay, what number, and the thing is you have to think about is what they're asking for. So in this case, they're saying what number. So that's what we don't know. We don't know what number is equal 25% of 50. Okay, what number is 25%? Now when I write percents in decimals, okay, remember it is basically it's like imagining 25 as a whole number, moving it 2 spaces, the decimal place 2 spaces, and then that becomes the decimal. Okay, 25%, or think of it 25 of 100, and this is 25 hundredths. Okay, same thing. Of is times 50. So I would just do 0.25 times 50 to get the answer. Go ahead and do that. What is 0.25 times 50? You should have gotten 12.5. Okay? 12.5. All right. Next one. What number is, so again we have a what number is 125% of 64. Okay, so what number is 125%? Imagine this is a whole number, 125. Move the decimal places 2 spaces back, so it's 1.25. That's the decimal for that. Of times 64. Okay, go ahead and multiply that. You're going to get a number bigger than 64. What is it? It is 80. There you go. Okay, no problem there, right? Go to next. It says a percent statement can be set up as a proportion. One ratio compares the part of a quantity to the whole quantity. The other ratio is a percent rate written in the form of a ratio. Part of a whole is percent rate. For example, 10% of 50 is 5. Can be written as a proportion. Okay, so 5 over 50 is equal to 10 over 100. All right, so let's try writing these as proportion. What number is 125% of 48? Okay, 125% of 48. What did they do there? Okay, well, let's clear this. Cut. Okay, so it's the same type of problem I did before, right? But in terms of proportion, they're saying what number is 125% of 48. Okay, so because it's out of 100, when we see percent, so it's 125 out of 100 is equal to what number out of 48? Of 48. Okay, there's your proportion. And we know how to solve proportions. Cross multiply, right? Let's put this as an x. Cross multiply, so 125 times 48, 100 times x, and then divide by 100. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So they put the 125 on the right side. It doesn't make a difference. So we cross multiply. That gives us 6,000 is equal to 100c. Divide by 160. Okay, 60. So 60 is 125% of 48. All right. B. Now here they have this one, 15. Oops. Okay, so 15 is what percent of 45? Now We can set it up as a, they're going to do as a proportion, but let's do the old way. 15 is what percent? So this is going to be a percent of 45. Okay, so a percent, we don't know, so of 45. So what percentage of 45 gives me 15? Okay, well, I would divide by 45 there. Okay, divide by 45, divide by 45. All right, if you divide that, I think that will give you, let's see, 0.33. Okay, all right, is equal to X percentage. Okay, and what percent is that? That is 33%, 33 and a third, 33.3333. That goes on forever, but it's 33 and a third percent. Okay, for the proportion that they were doing on this one, let's see how they set it up. So they said what 15 is what percent of 45. So 15 over 45 is equal to you're looking for the percent. It's out of 100, right? So cross multiply, same thing, 33.3333. Calculating wages. Anna receives $1,153.84 in gross earnings every 2 weeks. However, 28.07% of that, 0.07% of the gross earnings is removed for taxes and other deductions. Use an equation, determine the net pay. Okay, so 28% times what she makes is her net pay. Remember, you have to move the decimal 2 spaces back. That gives you the decimal. Multiply it. This gives her her deductions. Then she would go back to subtract it from her gross earnings to get her net pay. Okay. Use estimation. Since about 30% is deducted from 1,200, then she receives 70% in net pay. Right. Okay, finances. You always ask me, well, when are we going to use this? When are we going to use this? Well, finances. This is an excellent example of when you would use math. Dominique earns $9.25 an hour working part-time. The circle graph shows how he divides his earnings. This month, Dominic has worked a total of 54 hours. Find the amount of Dominic's earnings that will be put into savings this month. Okay, so he has 50% personal spending, 40% savings, 10% charity. Okay, he worked 54 hours. So multiply 54 times how many hours he worked. That's how much money he received, right? Well, there's his money. Well, let's find out how. 50% of it goes into personal savings. So 50% of 499.50 is, personal spending. Savings is what we want to know. So savings is 40%. Okay, so 40% of 499. That's what they said. They did it as a proportion, and you could just say, okay, 40% of 499.50. So that's 0.40 times, of means times 499.50. Go ahead and multiply that, and you should have gotten 199.80. Okay. Go ahead and do the lesson practice. A through F. Not too hard for this week. Okay. I think this week was a lot easier than last week. All right. I don't know about you guys, but that distributive property of variables and the factoring out, that tends to be more problematic. But this week, pretty clear. Hopefully no one had any problems. All right, good.